Okay, so in this video, we are going to finish up chapter 1 by looking at adjectivals and adverbials or adjectives and adverbs. Let's jump right in. Now, if we're starting from our high school definitions of adjectives and adverbs, it probably looks something like adjectives modify a noun and adverbs modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Fortunately, that's pretty accurate. So we can go ahead and just stick with those definitions. Now, a couple of other ways to think about adjectives and adverbs. They often come with what we call derivational endings, which are really just letters that we add on to another word. For instance, adverbs usually come with the derivational ending ly. In fact, we often turn adjectives into adverbs by adding that ly. So happy becomes happily. We can also use them to make adjectives comparative or superlative, and we can also qualify or intensify adjectives. We can say she became less happy or very happy, with less and very being adverbs. So qualifying, making superlative, making comparative, these are things that adjectives, or that can be done to adjectives, excuse me. Now, adjectives and adverbs can be very similar, so you might be wondering how you identify which is which. Here are some tips. Number one, if you can move the word around easily without affecting the meaning of the sentence, then it's probably an adverb. Because adjectives modify nouns, they have to stay pretty close to the noun that they're modifying. You could not move short in that sentence and keep the same meaning. Adverbs, on the other hand, generally have more freedom. You could put quickly at the beginning or the end of the predicate, and you're still in pretty good shape. Okay, so the second tip, if it ends in ly, it's almost certainly an adverb. That, again, is the primary way of making words into adverbs, but it's not always. Likely and unlikely are exceptions, and we'll talk about only another exception in a moment. Now, finally, the third tip, just look it up in the dictionary. The dictionary is going to become your friend this semester. You might think, I know English, I don't need a dictionary, but I can tell you that you absolutely need a dictionary for this class. For instance, could you give me a definition of the word like? And could you tell me if it's an adjective, adverb, conjunction, or preposition? Probably not. And frankly, I couldn't give you a definition of that word right off the bat either. And one thing the dictionary will do is it will show you how one word can be used in many different ways depending on the context, and it will give you different examples. And that will help you if you are trying to analyze a sentence and figure out how a word like is being used in a particular sentence. So use your dictionary. Now with the iPad, you should be able to hold your finger down over a word, and there should come a define button should come up as one of your menu options. Likewise, you can also just search for a single word in Google, and you'll often get a dictionary definition right at the top of the search results, pretty close to the top. So I use these all the time when I'm thinking about grammar, and I really encourage you to do the same. Take, for instance, the word only. Now, I can see from the dictionary that it can be both an adjective and an adverb. And when it's an adjective, it will mean something like the best, or something alone in a category, or a limited number of things. But as an adverb, it can have 4 different uses, and it can even be a conjunction as well. So it's one of these words where if you want to understand how it's being used in a sentence, a dictionary is probably a good place to start. Let's try it out in a couple of different sentences and contexts. Now, note that the placement of the word will help you determine whether it functions as an adjective or as an adverb. So if I place the word only before you, then I'm indicating that you and no one else can prevent forest fires, which is, I think, what Smokey the Bear was really trying to say to us. But if I place it before or after forest fires, I'm indicating that those are the only things that you can prevent, which would make it then, it would modify a different type of adjective. It would still be an adjectival. But if I place it after can, then I'm indicating that preventing forest fires is the only action that you are capable of doing. You know, you can't do anything else. You can't run, you can't jump. All you can do is prevent forest fires. And in that case, it would function as an adverb. So let's go through a few examples to talk about this. Now, the instructions say, identify the adjectives and adverbs in the following sentences. Are the adverbs movable? If so, rewrite the sentence moving the adverb to another position. Note this is a group discussion. This is not an exercise. You do not have to do this for homework, so we're just going to do it for practice. And we're not going to rewrite the sentences because that's lame. All right, so I have finally finished my annual report. Well, I got an ly word here, and it seems to be modifying when I finish something. So it is, in fact, an adverb. If I'm looking for an adjective, annual would be that adjective modifying what type of report is it? It's one that comes out every year. It's annual. Maria has now made great progress toward her goal. Now, again, is one of these adverbs, and that's modifying has or has made, the whole verb phrase. And made great progress toward her goal. Great would be an adjective. What type of progress? Great progress. So there we go. Now, I forgot that one of the things we want to try out is, can you move it? So I have finally finished my annual report. I could say, finally, I have finished my annual report. And you basically got the same meaning. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. I have finished my finally annual report. Yeah, that doesn't really work. I finally have finished my annual report. Yeah, that works. So finally is pretty movable. Annual, on the other hand, is not. I have finally finished my annual report. Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all. Maria has now made great progress toward her goal. Can I move now? Now Maria has made great progress toward her goal. Maria has made great progress toward her goal now. Yeah, it's pretty movable. That one's fine. Great, of course, can't be removed. The hunters move stealthily through the deep woods. I got, words. That's what's on my brain right now. I got an ly word here, stealthily. So I've got an adverb. Is it movable? Stealthily, the hunters moved through the deep woods. I still can't say that. The hunters moved through the deep woods stealthily. Yeah, that works. So it is movable. Deep is my adjective. The young activists organize rallies everywhere. My adverb is everywhere. Can I move it? Everywhere the young activists organize rallies. The young activists everywhere organize rallies. It's pretty movable, except if I move it, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I want to do. If I move it here, the young activists everywhere, then I'm really turning it into an adjective such that it modifies the young activists. Which young activists? The ones that are everywhere. So you can't move it just to any old place, but most places you can. And no, oh yeah, young is an adjective. So that's my adjective. My best and oldest friend occasionally surprises me with a visit. Occasionally, my best and oldest friend surprises me with a visit. My best and oldest friend surprises me occasionally with a visit. It's pretty movable. So, all right, let's erase those. Okay, let's move on. Now, with adjectives and adverbs, like nouns and verbs, we have to go beyond thinking of them as single words. And instead, we have to think of how groups of words can function as adjectives and adverbs. And these we call adjectivals and adverbials. So an adjectival is any group or any word or group of words that functions as an adjective. That could just mean a noun. It could mean a verb phrase, it could be a prepositional phrase, it could even be a clause, as we'll talk about. Adverbial is pretty simple, or similar. Any word or group of words, like a noun phrase or a verb phrase or a prepositional phrase, that functions as an adverb. So we are going to look at these more in depth later in the semester. We're going to have a whole chapter and lecture on adjectivals and a whole chapter and lecture on adverbials. But for now, just get comfortable with the idea that instead of single adjectives or adverbs, we can use a whole phrase or even a clause to serve the same function. For instance, in the phrase, the college student, college is a noun, but it's functioning as an adjectival. It's modifying students, telling us what type of student. Likewise, tonight is a noun, but it's functioning as an adverbial, modifying ride, indicating when it is that we ride. We ride tonight. So here's another way to show this point. Notice how I can turn these adjectives and adverbs into adjectivals and adverbials, but without altering the basic meaning. Short can become of inconsiderable height. Now that's a prepositional phrase that basically still means short. Likewise, with significant haste is a prepositional phrase that basically means quickly. So Both are prepositional phrases, but they're both doing the work of, in one case, an adjective, and in the other case, an adverb. Okay, now I've used the term prepositional phrases a lot without defining them and without saying them very clearly. So let's actually look at what those are and what they mean. Now, a preposition is a closed class word, which means there is a limited number and they cannot be inflected. There's around 200 prepositions in English altogether. Now, the most common ones are words like about, with, between, by, for, to, of, at, below, etc., etc. But there are also less common ones like except, or regarding, or like, or per, or than. And notice how these less common ones often have other grammatical uses, like than, as, and like. So if you are uncertain about whether a word is a preposition or not, think about, well, can I inflect it? Could I replace it with a different word? Could I make up a new word? But frankly, it's easiest just to look it up in a dictionary. Now, prepositions create prepositional phrases, and prepositional phrases are the preposition plus some type of noun, noun phrase, or some type of nominal. And that always kind of goes together. You have the preposition, and then you have something that goes along with it that has to be some type of nominal form. So you could not say, the mouse went between sinks, because sings is a verb or a verb phrase. It's a tense word. It's made present. You could say, though, that the mouse went between her legs. Her legs is a noun phrase, so that makes grammatical sense, between being the preposition. Okay, now here's where things get a little tricky, so we got to pay close attention. Prepositional phrases are either adjectivals or adverbials. Okay, remember how I said you wouldn't find the subject within a prepositional phrase? That is because prepositional phrases are always modifiers. They are either modifying the subject, the predicate, or in a few exceptions, the sentence as a whole. And since they are modifiers, that means they are always adjectivals or adverbials. Now, when they function as adjectivals, they are modifying some type of noun or noun phrase or nominal, and they indicate which one or what sort. But when they function as adverbials, they indicate where, when, why, how, or how often. So the tricky part is figuring out, is a prepositional phrase an adjectival or is it a adverbial? And that's what we're going to look at. To give you a way to think through this, I'm going to show you a clip to help us think about the difference. This is from the movie Wreck-It Ralph. If you haven't seen it, Ralph is going to be the really big guy, and he's angry at King Candy, which is the small guy. Okay? We'll go ahead and play that.
I'm gonna beat the filling out of you! Aha! You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? Aha! You hit a guy with glasses. It's well played.
Okay, you might not have been able to hear that because of the sound. So let me just kind of talk you through it anyways. But here's how we break it down. King Candy is going to use the prepositional phrase with glasses in two different ways. He says first, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, and he is modifying the word a guy, and he's indicating what sort of guy, that is one who wears glasses. That makes the first usage an adjectival. With glasses here is functioning as an adjectival. In the second instance though, he is modifying the word hit, indicating how Ralph hit him using the glasses. So that would make it an adverbial. So even though you have the exact same sentence, in one meaning, it could be adjectival, and in another meaning, it could be adverbial. And that's why prepositional phrases are pretty tricky figuring out, is this an adjectival or is this adverbial? Because it really depends on the meaning that we want. Now, however, we do have the movability principle. And we know that adverbials are generally more movable. If I move it to the beginning and I say, with glasses, you hit a guy, that could not mean the same thing as an adjectival. I would no longer assuming I am hitting somebody who is wearing glasses. You would assume I'm hitting somebody using glasses. And that suggests that that's the adverbial usage because it is movable. I could move it to the beginning of a sentence instead of the end, and it still keeps the same meaning, whereas the adjectival version does not. Okay, clear as mud. All right, so Last thing is, let's go through the exercises. Now, if you've gotten to the end of this video, congratulations. You've sat through 2 long videos about very abstract concepts. So we're just going to do all of them together. And this way you can just kind of do your homework this way. I mean, you could just look up the answers anyways at the back of the book, but this way you can actually get some explanation for what we have here. So our goal here is to underline the prepositional phrases in the following sentences and identify them as either adjectival or adverbial, okay? Let's look at the first one. You will often find a cake at special parties. Now, hopefully you identify at as our preposition, okay? You is the noun, it's a pronoun. Will, we'll talk about that later, but it's what we call an auxiliary verb, indicating future tense. Often is an adverb, but it's not a prepositional phrase. Find is a verb. A is a determiner. And cake is another noun. At, on the other hand, is a close case word. It's the only close case word except for a that we've seen so far. So that is our preposition. At special parties is our prepositional phrase. Now, what I want to know, am I modifying cake or am I modifying find? One thing I could try is to see if I can move it around. At special parties, you will often find a cake. And that seems to make sense. We still have the same meaning here, even though we moved it to the beginning. So that suggests it is an adverbial. We are talking about where it is that we find these cakes. Remember that adverbials answer questions like where, when, why, how, and how often, whereas adjectivals answer which ones or what sort. Let's go to the next one. Birthday cakes are common in many Western cultures. Here's my subject. Here's my verb. You should also be doing the subject and verb distinction, the subject predicate distinction, excuse me, as we go along, because that's really important to practice. So this is my predicate right here. Birthday cakes are common in many Western cultures. And I'm probably wondering, okay, where is my preposition? Well, birthday is an adjective, cakes is a noun, are is a verb, common is an adjective, in though is my first close case word. That is a preposition. So we're going to focus on that one. This is the noun phrase that follows it. Many Western cultures. Now we got a couple of adjectives here, but cultures is our head words. Now we're probably wondering, okay, is this modifying birthday cakes or is it modifying whether or not they are common? Let's try the movability principle first. In many Western cultures, birthday cakes are common, okay? That suggests that we are talking about how frequently, or excuse me, where you can find them. You can find them in many Western cultures, excuse me, where they are common. And so that would make this adverbials. Now, notice if we were to move this phrase after cakes, birthday cakes in many Western cultures are, wait, no. What was I thinking of? I wanted to talk about a different example with this phrase. Birthday cakes are common in many Western cultures. I want to come back to this one. There's something I wanted to say about it, but now I'm blanking on it. All right, let's just move on to number 3. Birthday cakes in ancient Rome contain nuts and honey. Same preposition here, in. Notice how it's coming right after a noun that might suggest that we have an adjectival. Let's read through it again. Birthday cakes in ancient Rome, this is our prepositional phrase, contain nuts and honey. Here it is an adjectival because it is modifying, telling us which cakes, which ones, the ones that were in ancient Rome. It's not talking about, it's not modifying contained. Cupcakes are a popular alternative to birthday cakes. To birthday cakes is my preposition. Remember that to can be a preposition. What is it modifying? It is modifying alternative. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the simplest way to put it. I'm just going to leave it there. Finally, many people add candles to the top of a birthday cake. Okay, here we have 2 prepositional phrases. We have to the top and of a birthday cake, all right? Now, the first one, what is it modifying? Well, it's modifying add because it's telling us where you add candles. You put them on the top. Now, of a birthday cake, what is it modifying? It's actually modifying the noun top, which is the noun from the other prepositional phrase. This makes this one adjectival and this one adverbial because we could not move of a birthday cake to a different part of the sentence. Notice we couldn't say, to the top, many people add candles of a birthday cake. Doesn't make any sense. But we could say, to the top of a birthday cake, many people add candles. We could also, if we drop this, we could just say, to the top, many people add candles. And while it doesn't make great sense because we're inclined to say, well, to the top of what? It nonetheless still grammatically works. And that indicates that this is an adverbial prepositional phrase as opposed to an adjectival. This, on the other hand, is an adjectival one, okay? Let me see if I come back to number 2 and remember what the point it was I wanted to make there. Oh, yeah. Let's imagine that we moved in many Western cultures to after cakes. That would make it adjectival. And notice how it dramatically changes the meaning of the sentence. What we're saying is that birthday cakes in many Western cultures are, again, I'm totally blanking. We're just gonna forget that. I'm just gonna forget that example. Maybe I'll clarify in class when my mind comes back to me, but as of right now, I think that covers it. All right, if you have questions about this, let's talk about it in class. I know this could be pretty tricky, so we will want to come back to it. Anyways, hopefully this video has been helpful, these 2 videos, and that when we come to class next time, we can just practice and really try out many different examples and get comfortable with it. Okay, see you then.